Welcome to Bright and Bored. Now what? Our teleclass for bright and gifted students and families who are not totally sure what to do with them. My name is Otto Siegel. I'm founder and president of Genius Coaching in Phoenix, Arizona. I trust you came with a specific reason for this class. And so let me introduce you briefly to some logistics of teleclasses. Maybe you are experienced, maybe you're not. If not, there is a text feature, a chat feature on your screen. Please feel free to use it as many times as you can. I want to make this presentation as interactive as possible. I might not get to all your questions. We might open some space at the end to answer more of those questions, but please feel free to participate because your questions are very important for the progression of this class. I want you to get the most benefit possible for your personal situation with your children or with your adult teenagers in your current situation. So the subtitle today is Practical Tools for Guiding Bright Children and Teenagers to Be Their Best. And we will explore in more in depth what that means. So as we go through this presentation, let me get started from the beginning. It begins with Monica on a dark November day in 1976. I was just in my teaching career for about 3 months. And then I watched Monica, 14 years old, walking into my chemistry lab. She made sure she always found a seat next to the window, so she would have enough light to read her book under her desk. Makes sense. So as the class progressed, I noticed that, and I asked a question, very challenging question actually to the class. Her hand went up first. She responded correctly and kept reading without even looking up from the book. I thought, this is interesting. So I repeated the same story about 3 times during the same class. Always the same response. She answered correctly and kept reading. After class, I called her up and said, Monica, what are you reading? Oh, did you notice? Yes, of course. And during the next 2 minutes, she gives me a speech where I need to read her book immediately, written by Carlos Castaneda, highly spiritual Latin American author. Do you connect the dots? Answering correctly each single time, reading very challenging literature on the side to entertain yourself. I told her, Monica, you must be bored out of your mind. And she started to cry. Out of this conversation, we developed a friendship, and I stumbled into a need I didn't know was so big. Bright and gifted children who are bored out of their mind. We developed a friendship, and I warned all the other teachers, please let Monica read in your class. That's how she learns. You can offer her as much as you want. Her hungry mind will not be satisfied. Some of my colleagues adopted this advice, some of them didn't. But Monica became my favorite student. But I learned from her, at least as much as she learned from me. And I got a direction for life. This is where I want to focus on. Helping these bright and gifted children to have a meaningful school career, and more than that, a meaningful life based on their unique talents and strengths. And I'm still thankful for Monica that she did that. On a bigger scale, here's the real dilemma. More bright children are born than ever in human history. Did you know that? Because they are less concerned with survival. Child mortality, infant mortality went down all these years and decades over the past century. So yes, chances are intellect can develop higher and faster than ever before. And then add to this picture baby Einstein videos. Not boring dangling toys on top of the crib. No, there are videos running from month 3 to stimulate brain development. Guess what? The brain develops. Synapses connect faster and more frequently in more complex patterns. And then, of course, they are pre-wired to learn quickly. Are you surprised to hear that more and more 2 or 3-year-olds teach themselves how to read? Shouldn't be surprising at all because we challenge them more. And as we grow into 5, 6, 7 years, many of them show behavior challenges. And that means behavior is body language. There is a huge discrepancy between this high intellectual and emotional stimulation and the physical symptoms. The behavior, the environment doesn't keep up. And behavior is basically the only way a child can communicate with the outside world in significant language. Later on, other skills are added, of course. But the main question is for right now, how do you respond as a parent? You might see the pain already, because boredom is one of the most painful experiences you can have for a highly curious intellect. And it's painful to slow down and be forced into doing something different where you can get it in 15 minutes. Why should you listen to 45 more minutes of the same issue? So how do you respond as a parent? Or if you're a teacher and a parent on this call, how does both apply to you? How do you respond as a teacher beyond lesson plans and curriculum? And on top of that, I challenge you even more, enjoying their uniqueness every day. Because that's why we have children to begin with. They are so uniquely different. They're so much fun to be with. And yes, sometimes they're very annoying. Let me give an example of what we are doing here in Genius Coaching. Lucas came to us at 9 years old. He lives in Atlanta. His dad is a CEO, and he was diagnosed with mild dyslexia and passivity. So his dad sent me his his report from the psychologist, and I called him back and said, Peter, this report is great, but it does not address the issue. Why? So we had a conversation and said, well, can I see him? So I flew to Atlanta to see him for a day, and sure enough, I figured out his unique strengths are business and basketball. He is the kind of child, 9 years old, asking on his way to school questions like, Daddy, what are stock options? Typical question for a 9-year-old, isn't it? So we figured out that's what we need to nourish, this specific interest for business information. So the daily homework was reading the headlines of the Wall Street Journal. And sure enough, within 1 week, the reading speed increased dramatically, and there was no sign of dyslexia whatsoever. Plus his passivity was over as well. Now with basketball he had so much fun with it, of course, and physical movement, as we know, supports learning like nothing else. So a surefire recipe for his quick recovery from dyslexia. So personally, I don't believe the labels too much. Yes, diagnoses are real in about 10% of all the cases. 90% are overdiagnosed or misdiagnosed. So very careful with labels before we go any further. So the challenge is twofold, as we learned from Lucas. Number one, these kids look for meaningful information for the hungry intellect because they're insatiably curious. They want to know. Learning should be fun. Learning is like eating, like drinking. It's a natural thing the human body is born to do. So if you slow it down or misguide it into areas where they're just absolutely not interested in, we send strong signals for their brains to shut down. So the first thing is figure out, what is my child really interested in? If I love to play tennis, why would I take piano lessons? Common sense enough? So it's worthwhile for you as parent to figure that out, and really in close detail, and take it serious, because chances are a lot of these interests might be outside the school system. And there's nothing wrong with that, because children don't just limit themselves to the school system. So as a parent, you have a unique opportunity to see the whole picture and then customize education around that. We'll get deeper into that, what that means. The biggest enemy we fight is, of course, boredom. And then the second part of this challenge is to see unusual behavior, what it is. A warning signal from the body. Something is off. Most likely, something is not known to me who I am as a person. Because behavior is body language, and behavior never lies. If it looks like aggressive, it might be just an outburst, a cry for help. Help me figure out who I am. And that is a very, very well and legal and reasonable request for somebody who grows up and wants to figure out who he or she really is. Unfortunately, medication is a big disservice in this kind of challenge. And medicating is one way to shut it down and suppress the symptoms, but it will never attack or address the roots. The deep understanding what's behind these aggressive symptoms, what's behind these outbursts, what's behind this supersensitivity to noises, whatever the case might be, or supersensitivity to food, whatever it might be, go beyond the label. Look for the roots and look for professional help that can help you figure that out. Your child's life quality is in stake, and that's worth everything you can do. So let's go one layer deeper here. What does boredom really mean for a bright and gifted child? And most of all, how do you deal with it? If you compare a brightness and giftedness to the speed of a racehorse, then you can imagine what would happen if you force this horse to walk only. And you punish it each time if it tries to go in trot or in canter or in gallop, or it runs all over the place for fun. So, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this natural, insatiable curiosity? So again, boredom looks like sometimes overlooked, sometimes suppressed, sometimes just simply ignored, but it's always a symptom. And the meaning can be different. It's not just one size fits all, and that's what I wanted to draw your attention into for the beginning of this lecture right away. One same symptom of food sensitivity, or in our case boredom, can mean different things. It can mean restlessness. All these bullet points you can read on these slides may or may not apply to your child, or some might apply stronger than others. And to make it even more confusing, this list is not complete. This is just a collection of things we see most frequently in our office in Scottsdale, Arizona. So as you read this, I invite you to reflect a little bit. And this is time to go on the computer and send us your questions. What resonates with you on this list? Is it this restlessness you observe? Is it this urge to do something all the time, to have an overloaded agenda, one thing to the other and one event to the other, back in the car, back out of the car, be exhausted by the time night comes and the child cannot sleep anymore because it's so restless? Or is it the lack of meaningful challenges? Mom, I understood my math problems already, and school. Why do I need to do all these long homeworks? These problems are all the same. Why should I solve all of them? I don't see why. What we look is meaning. So, lack of meaningful challenges means to figure out, what does my child really want? What is the purpose? Oh, we have our first question come in. Oh, thank you so much. Here it is. Let me read it to you. My child likes to dance and sing and never do homework. What do I do? Thank you so much for this question. Doris is your name. Thank you, Doris. That's a classic. First of all, there's a strong sense of movement and artistic expression in this child. It deserves a closer look without going too much into detail, but that might be the meaning, the dancing, the performing, the showing up in colors, being proud of herself. This is what this child is focused on, and from there learning begins. Once this is satisfied, then the conventional learning excuse me, from math and English can take place because now it has a framework. So, brilliant question, perfect context. Unclear interest. If a child doesn't know, I'm not sure. The shy little girl doesn't know what to do in life. I'm not sure if I can draw, if I can paint, if I can sing, if I can dance, because I never tried. Here's where encouragement comes in. To just make clear, I like this, I don't like this. And children are quick to answer. And here's the first parent challenge. If you face an interest that's way outside of your own interests, this deserves not only respect, but also support. Because once interests are clear, they are innate. These talents, we call it genius, is written on DNA. It cannot be discussed. It only can be discovered, developed, and then strengthened to develop into full-blown strength that is a foundation for life and future career. So let's go to the next one, lack of connection. If the child is disconnected, doesn't play with others, but I'm so bored. How can we encourage him or her to make new connection in a playful way? Just playing together without even having a long conversation about it. Just find common interest. Sometimes it's a simple box of Legos. Sometimes it's on the playground, using the same toy over and over again, and share the experience with it, or play and interact. Sometimes it's a role play. I mean, there's so many million things. One thing is for sure, computer games may or may not do the job. It's about social connection. So this in itself would be a whole webinar, But at this point of time, let's focus on the boredom and what to do about it. The feeling of being lost, lack of meaning, lack of purpose. Recently, we had a 7-year-old in our um, office for a genius evaluation, and after going through the first little interview and the first games we do to evaluate this child, all of a sudden, in a moment of silence, he said to his mom, "Mom, why do people have to die?" And it was quiet. I didn't interrupt the silence, so he added the second question, "Mom, why do we never talk about that?" These are things you can expect coming out of very young children, because since they're so bright and sensitive and stimulated early on in their lives, these deeper questions come up earlier, long before puberty hits. So the feeling of who am I in this world, why was I born, or being lost in this world because everything is so complicated and so noisy and so screaming and so over-informed, that might give my little child this feeling, oh, I'm totally lost in this world. Someone needs to guide me. So expect these deep questions from early on in life, because boredom might just cover it up. But the real need, when this is met, your child will never ever be bored again. The other one, low ability to reflect. There's never time to stop and think. There's never time to go away for a little vacation and just walk the river, walk and listen to simple noises in nature. Let yourself and your child be impacted by simple environmental things like sun and shade and cold and heat, and take the time to pause, to hit the pause button. The reflection, what's going on in life, how do I understand what happens in school, how do I stand by the weird, unusual behavior of my teacher. If I never reflect, I always be upset and then shut down by being bored and pretend I'm not interested. This can prevent learning on a long-term basis. And then it also might mean, last but for sure not least, a hidden desire to go deeper. I want to understand the meaning of math, not just the problems and the equations and the numbers game. Who invented all that crap? Where did numbers come in place? Why is math something that's understood internationally beyond any language barrier? Before I do my problems, I want to know the context. Expect to answer this kind of question for your 8-year-old. Why not? So in other words, don't be surprised if you find hidden life behind this boredom symptom. And that's what we do. So let's have a quick look into our brains. What happens? I don't want to bore you too much with details and complexities of the brain, but this simple drawing, designed in 2001 by Stephen Holland, and his website is hiddentalents.org. I picked that one because it makes it so clear what's involved. So, boredom means passivity or random activity in any area, which means in the normal world of intellectual performance or just simple thinking, the whole brain works like a huge symphony orchestra. Every single piece, every single instrument is in place and knows what part to play. If this is out of balance, then one part can act up, for example, association fibers, the point 2 here, which means making it overly complicated, overly complex, overanalyze simple things, and make it so complex that the child doesn't have the guts anymore to take action. And it means nothing else but this area being overstimulated and other areas of the brain being underserviced, so to speak. Or the limbic system. Limbic system is the center for emotions. So if there's an emotion like I hate my teacher and there's never a chance to speak it, it will be suppressed. This block in the limbic system affects the connection between left and right side of the brain. It affects thinking capabilities. The child actually plays stupid, literally. And all there is to it is an emotional block in the limbic system. So to understand a little bit brain anatomy helps a lot to understand the physiology of boredom. What does it mean? Or areas in the hypothalamus area shut down, the pituitary gland, which is the hormone center of the whole body. Which means here is where food addiction can begin. Okay, insulin imbalance can be triggered by the pituitary gland, because this gland triggers the insulin hormone in the pancreas. This is where childhood obesity can begin. So profound impacts on the maturation process of the body. The sexual hormones can be affected during puberty. So I don't want to go into all details, just give you an idea how profound of an impact boredom really has on the human brain, and from there, of course, throughout the whole body. Oh, we have another question coming. I want to take it right away because it fits perfect. The question is, what about the brainstem? Okay, I didn't pick all 7 or 9 parts of the brain that are linked to boredom here, but the brainstem is in charge of reflexes like breathing, like eating, swallowing, drinking, heartbeat. So the brainstem is the automation process of the brain. Everything that can be in cruise control goes down there on the brainstem. Let me give you an example. One day when you're 2 or 3 years old, you learned how to ride a bicycle. First, you had to try the pieces, all the balance. Maybe you had supporting wheels, extra wheels on the bicycle, and it was kind of hit and miss. Your dad had to run with you eventually to keep you on balance. So it was an adventure, in other words. And one way you took away the supporting wheels, you just knew how to ride this bicycle, and you never ever unlearned it. From this moment on, this whole process, how to ride a bicycle, was delegated to your brainstem. From then forward, you never ever in your life had to learn it again. So your brain is open and free for new things to learn. So the brainstem takes in a lot of habits. That's why it's so hard to break a habit, because it's no longer in the brain itself. It's already delegated to the brainstem because it's automated. So this in itself again would be a whole different lecture, but for right now to understand how profound the impact of boredom is on the brain, just to give you a quick idea. So thank you for your question. That was great impact and deserves a closer look. So I owe you one piece of this presentation. Why should you even listen to me? Besides my German accent, which you figured out already. But here's the deal. Monica started my journey in my first year of teaching, as I mentioned. In 1975, I was a high school teacher for biology and chemistry in Munich, Germany. And I love teaching. And thanks to Monica and many, many, many other students in the years to come, I figured out this is my real calling. I need to do something for these bright and gifted students who are highly intelligent misfits and prevent that they are bored out of their mind. So 1981, I spent 7 years as a teacher and consultant at Colégio Visconde de Porto Seguro in Sao Paulo in Brazil, working for the German government. And guess what? Brazilian kids are the same. They have the same issues because it's global. And then I came back to Germany and found, wow, still the same lesson plans. I think I reached a natural saturation process of teaching. So I had to venture out into educational consulting for gifted children in Germany, beginning with a simple ad in the paper. Bright children with learning difficulties call such and such. And the phone started to ring almost immediately. After 1 year and a half, I already trained 4 consultants to work with me because it just was way too much for me alone. And needless to say, I hit a huge need. This need has been increasing ever since. And that's why Genius Coaching is just a natural growing up of this tree that I planted back in the 90s in Germany. In 1996, I moved to Scottsdale and we started Fit for Learning. In the meantime, my first consultant, Susanna Lang, she and I fell in love and we lived together and worked together and built this practice together, Fit for Learning. But then we had to take a break because marketing and sales work totally different in America. Surprise, surprise. And we could not sustain our business even though we had 100 clients in our very first year here in Scottsdale. So we had to do some homework, and for my part, I went as a training manager for NDC Health, a company in Phoenix, Arizona. During that time as a training manager, I was tasked to provide a leadership training that actually works for the company. And during that very same week, I discovered coaching with a brochure that came across my desk of National Coaching Institution or National Coaching School in Colorado. For corporate coaching, my company sponsored me to take this class, or to take this whole training actually for 1 year and a half. and he became a certified business coach first and a certified life coach and later on a master certified coach. That gave me the opportunity to focus on the behavior based changes because coaching bridges the gap between information and action. And that was exactly the missing link for these corporate leaders as much as it was for families. Once you know everything about your bright child, you know about the high IQ, you know everything that needs to be known in the planet, then what? What do you actually do about it? And that's why I'm so thankful I took this route as a certified coach. I'm associated with the ICF, the International Coach Federation. I was on their board in the Phoenix chapter of this international association, and I'm so thankful I'm associated with them because that's exactly the missing link, the action part. So until today, from 2002, just before Christmas until today, I started Genius Coaching when I was laid off because the company was sold. HR was basically taken off the books. And as part of HR, I was part of the people who were supposed to be being laid off. It was the perfect start for Genius Coaching. I focused on gifted children, their parents and teachers, and company owners as well. Because parents frequently work in companies or have their own companies. So, and also adults, by the way, show the same symptoms. Yes, they're also bright and bored. It doesn't stop with a certain age group. Children might show it more frequently, adults might have more possibilities to entertain themselves and distract, but the root cause is the same. Later on in life, I might call it a midlife crisis to still wake up to who you are and what you're supposed to do on this planet. Let me add one more piece from my side. I have a very strong feeling, which I wrote down as my personal vision and passion, to create a strength-based environment in families, schools, and companies that brings out the best in every human being of any age. I took a while to write this down in one sentence because that's what I really care about. To build, first of all, the environment that focuses on finally not fixing weaknesses anymore. To focuses single-eyed on developing, identifying first and developing strength, and forget the weaknesses or delegate them. Weaknesses want to be weaker, strength want to be stronger. And it shows up in every environment, in families, schools, and companies, and that's where it needs to be addressed. The human environment is crucial to develop strength or suppress them. A specific example, if a child or family comes to us for Genius evaluation, one of our first questions of all of my coaches is, do you like your teacher? And this is the make or break. More important than a progressive or conservative school environment is the affection, the emotional connection to the teacher. That makes a child learn or suppress learning. And that's why we focus on building the environment for genius development, the environment for bringing out the best in people because they're born that way. So yes, here's the meaning of environment. You cannot, if the fish is sick, you need to exchange the water, not the fish. That's why environment you can provide your children as a family is crucial for intellectual, emotional, and physical development. And therefore, this presentation should help you to raise the level of awareness, but also give you specific things to do to make a difference. We cannot blame it on school or wait for school. They do what they do, and we'll get into these different roles in a moment. But for right now, just to see you and your family are the biggest part of environment. In reality, it should be fun to be brilliant. Is it true? You have the answer more than I do, because it may or may not be true. It should be a part of your joy of life to unfold your talents, to make them bigger, to have a feeling of progression, have a feeling what I do makes sense, what I do adds value, I have fun doing it, I'm passionate, I'm engaged, nobody had to force me to do homework. Wouldn't that be heaven? That's what we go for, and we will show you in this presentation why. So, first part is, let me prove it to you that you are a genius as you listen to this presentation, as you engage yourself in this interactive teleclass. Do you remember? That's how you looked at one point in your life. You may or may not remember because it was probably too early. But 23 chromosomes from your dad and 23 from your mom. That's all you had in your fertilized egg cell and the connection to your mother's womb. And after a while, you probably looked something like this. It was uncomfortable, squeezed in, but you did not care because your laser focus was on growing up, on building a body out of these 46 chromosomes. So, and nobody had to tell you, oh, wait a minute, don't forget, now it's time to grow your left leg a little bit. It's a little bit too short. Or don't forget your muscles, don't forget your nerve tissues. Nothing of that nature. Forget all the hectic. You knew, your body knew, your chromosome messages knew when to do what and what the timeline would be for every single cell and tissue in this body. And then one day, you were born and most likely looked like something like this. So don't you think that this package deal biologically came with a strong set of unique talents and strength, enough to build a successful life upon it? I personally strongly believe that. Just as a biology teacher, I believe that. It's not even belief, it's a biological certainty. It goes beyond belief system. There's not an option for you not to be brilliant. Because this intelligence that brought you the first 9 months to this stage of being a baby, it's absolutely genius in action. Nobody had to tell you what to do at what time. Your body knew it all by itself because it was programmed and still is on these 46 chromosomes in your cells. And then you were born as a baby and phone calls were made and grandparents flew in. Why? Are all parents and grandparents nuts? It's just another baby born. It happens every day, every hour. No. Your parents knew, my daughter, my son is special. Nobody is like her. She has a unique smile, unique fingerprints, unique eye color, unique whatever you take it. She is different from anybody else. And they were right on. It's a reason to be proud of every baby that's born on this planet. It's a reason to nurture this uniqueness all the way. Because, let's face it, if you develop this uniqueness all the way and really boost and support it, it can go as high as you want to, even to a genius level. Just think for a moment about this 3-year-old boy who started to swing a golf club at age 3. And already this sentence reveals what I'm talking about. His father did not tell him, wait until you're 12 and then we talk about golf. No, he was the opposite. He looked for customized little golf clubs so the little boy could practice his swing every day. And that's what he wanted to do anyway. And sure enough, after years of careful coaching and mentoring, he became the genius Tiger Woods he is today. But he also teaches us another lesson. He is not a specialist, a genius in human relationships. We know that. So every genius has an area of specialty. So do you see the point? How we can battle boredom right away? By focusing laser sharp on this uniqueness. What is it about this child that's unique? And you are as a parent on a discovery. Write it down from baby age. What do you observe? Even if it doesn't make sense in the moment, it will add up to a picture that's crystal clear. Once you have it, that's where education needs to focus. My personal dream is to have a genius school that does exactly that. Customize education around unique talent. That should produce happy people all along. I cannot wait to see it in action. Right now it's my personal vision, but I'm sure in a couple of years it will manifest because I'm passionate and dedicated to make it happen. So the other one is uniqueness is first in life. And then, because we are born like this, and then one day, when you came to kindergarten, you faced a different reality. Because all of a sudden, you were so excited about reading and writing because somebody told you, that's when you learn how to read and write. So, your assumption might have been, you'll learn reading and writing in 2 weeks. But no, it was one letter a day. And this one letter had to fit between these two lines, exactly between these two lines. Otherwise, it was wrong. So, for the first time in your tender age of just making it out of infant stage, you learn something is wrong with me. Because no child can do that from the beginning. Instead of coloring the letters all over the place in bigger shapes, in smaller, on big paper, on small paper, in different colors, with crayons, that's how you're supposed to learn how to read and write. But guess what? The system taught you something else. So you learned right and wrong. And that was way too early. Because school has a different meaning. It teaches common standards, how to read, how to write. Absolutely necessary, because without these principles, genius would not even develop. So the point is, compare it with you walking on two legs. The common standards, the fitting in, is one side, and the uniqueness is the other side. So now you do the counting, and you have a quick moment of reflection. Are your two legs developed equally? The uniqueness and the common standards. Because guess what? Universities also teach common standards. Companies teach corporate standards. So you're most likely in overload in standards, and I'm not sure if you're in the same overload in developing your personal strength, your unique strength. So in real life, both need to be developed and nurtured every day. And this is the kind of balance we go for. So Genius Coaching provides a service that absolutely complements the school system all over the world and is not offered in any school so far. So what if you're out of balance? This is where the big decision is made on a social behavior level. Do I just fit into this class? Do I force myself to fit into this kindergarten group? Or do I belong to it? There's a huge emotional difference. If I belong to my family, I love every family member, and I love them because they are so uniquely different. If I feel I'm the outlier here, I am the highly intelligent misfit, I don't get anywhere, chances are I withdraw in myself. And that's where the boredom comes in again. Because boredom covers it up. I'm so bored, nobody understands me. That could be a highly social misfit speaking, but not real life. That's why, again, this is a crucial decision early on in life. The fitting in or belonging to. If I belong to, I'm emotionally happy. I cannot wait to see these people again. I like to share new things with them all the time. I'm open. I have an open heart and open mind because I feel safe. I feel I can trust. So we address deep issues of trust, of social behavior, just with these early signs in life, how we manage symptoms of boredom. The human body insists to walk on two legs, absolutely. If this is what you neglected so far, guess what? There might be a workout necessary for your uniqueness leg. And that's what we do. We develop the uniqueness part to complement the standard part of education. And when we have both legs strong, you can actually walk and you can run. And that makes you successful because you cannot wait to do what you do best every day. All right. So, this was a lot of information so far. Please keep those questions coming, okay? I didn't see a lot popping in at this point of time, but I want to give you a few moments to reflect on what we just covered so far in this first third of the teleclass. How genius is innate. It's not a question. Okay? We dance around this word genius. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. Take brilliance instead, or excellence. I don't care. But as you got so far, there's a spark in everybody that needs to be developed. And to go with Albert Einstein, he said there is a true genius in everyone. But the rest of the quote goes like this: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will always believe it is stupid. That drives home the specialty issue and leads to this question. So genius might be a loaded topic, and this slide shows you just what to look for actually. To demystify, to take it out of the celebrity status or giving it away to others. In reality, it's fairly simple. I mean, the Roman culture had obviously a sense for this when they coined the term genius, because they believed strongly that every baby is born with a unique spirit of brilliance. That's what they called it. And it would unfold. It could be suppressed, but also could unfold. So they instilled in us this knowledge on a cultural level that yes, there is a hidden spark in everybody. Do we take the time and the observation skills and then the diligence to do something about it? But here's what you should look for. Of course, number one is intelligence, but intelligence is not just IQ. IQ is way overrated and was invented and created in 1900 by Alfred Binet in Paris. Great invention at that time, but I believe strongly in the meantime we are further ahead in the game. You might be familiar with Howard Gardner, Harvard psychologist. He wrote a book, Multiple Intelligences. Second version came out in 2006 and identified 8 intelligences, 8 qualities of intelligence. No measurement, no numbers attached, but qualities. We added 4 more to this picture because intelligence is a crucial piece of genius. One of them, for example, being business intelligence. The 14-year-old who already produces designs and sells t-shirts for profit to invest more into t-shirt, develop it into a brand, and generate income for that. This is not measured by IQ, but it's definitely an intelligence that can be fundamental for his life. That's why we measure 12, to give the picture, the colorful brightness of intelligence in our century. Number 2 is intensity. These kids are in your face. They want to have something, they want it now, and they'll let you know. Okay? That's where the aggressive behavior could come in as a mislabel. I want to have it now. I don't want to wait for anything. The deeper thing is I want to understand on a deeper level how life works, how business works, how society works. Why does a school do what they do? I want to know the deeper meaning of this. Give it to me. That's when the intensity relaxes, when it can give these answers. So genius is intense. I mean, Bill Gates was intense, still is, but was even more so. Steve Jobs was intense. All the genius examples you can quote from around the world, Copernicus, Galilei, Michelangelo, all these big guys, Einstein was intense. So intelligence alone doesn't cut it. So there's more to the picture. And then number 3, frequently overlooked but highly important, is sensitivity. That means all senses are wide open. Mom, please cut out the label from my t-shirt, it itches me. Or no, I cannot wear these socks, they are horrible. These are things of sensitivity. That means nothing is wrong with this child. The senses are wide open to feed this hungry, curious brain. So it needs to be supported. The senses want to be fed, to have information available for this brain that craves so much. And then we mentioned already number 4, specialty. The golf example, Tiger Woods, this probably speaks for itself. Yes, this is uniqueness in action. Find out uniqueness. Find out what is unique fingerprint. It is like a fingerprint, this whole picture of genius. It's not the same for anybody. And it is so worthwhile to find out what it is. It took me only personally 35 years until I figured out my giftedness is outside the school system. And I'm so glad I took all the courses, all the classes, paid for CD programs and coaches and seminars and books. You name it, I did it because I had this insatiable curiosity. I want to figure it out what it is. I wish I would have one of me 30 years ago. So the challenge was I had to develop it myself. Uniqueness is the key to find in the game. And once you have it, you will be, the more closer you get, the happier you are. You can measure it directly. And last but for sure not least on this short list of 5 is charisma, which means these people are on fire. They are convincing, they are persuading, they have a purpose, a direction. They cannot understand why not everybody sees life as they do. Because they know what they need to do something that hasn't been done before, or why is this problem so obvious for 30 years? Why did not somebody think of a more intelligent solution? Those might be questions here from your teenager. Okay? When you see this play together or see them in action, then you know this is a person's search or quest for their personal genius. So, to give you an idea of what that means, unique strengths are physical, innate, and biological. What do I mean by that? You cannot discuss them. They're innate, like your left arm or any part of your body. And the more you figure it out, the more you know. You might have heard the name Temple Grandin. And Claire Danes won a Golden Globe Award for her acting in this famous movie. Temple Grandin was diagnosed as 100% autistic at age 3, and back then in the 70s, the diagnosis was medicate her and lock her up. That's it. Fortunately enough for her, her aunt and your mom screamed no way and said we figured it out. However, they had no idea. Now the movie, I don't want to give away the whole movie, but two things you need to know. They took her to Tucson to live on her aunt's farm for a while, and all of a sudden you see her fast forward in the movie when she is about 11. She sits in the back of a truck and approaches the gate, gets out of the car, opens the gate, the truck drives through, and she closes the gate. And next thing you see, Temple runs around on this ranch like a maniac, looking for wood, looking for screws, looking for nails, looking for a hammer, looking for all kinds of tools. And she builds a mechanism where the gate opens and closes automatically when a truck approaches. At this time, she's 11 years old. And then the wake up begins. So you can follow the other stages on during the movie, which is fascinating to watch. And for every family with a highly intelligent or even bored child, then she teaches herself how to speak. In the meantime, fast forward, she's professor in Colorado, teaches engineering. She taught herself how to read and how to speak, and speaks at every autism conference in the United States as an expert. So, in other words, everybody has them. Even people who would be children would be labeled as autistic. So the boredom might cover up a big void that is just not explored. So yes, this $1,000,000 question needs to be answered as well. How about giftedness outside the school system? Thanks to the internet, thanks to countless specialists, there's no shortage in teachers. The only limit is in the mindset of the parent. That's why I want to promote all of you on this call to become CEOs, Chief Education Officers, which means to take charge of the education of your child like nobody else, because you know your child from day one. You observe them, to watch them. You know the talents that could be strong enough to lead into a career, and you are the number one people to encourage them to bring it on, to show me more of this specialty, show me more of these 5 genius qualities. And encouragement is like fertilizer for talents. Encouragement, support, understanding quirky behavior on a deeper level. That's what it takes to build an environment where children can soar inside and outside the school system. So yes, there is a problem. And there are many problems we write about in our book, Yes, You're a Genius. My partner Susanna Lang, I mentioned her already. We wrote this book as an early compilation and summary of our experience. And we are born to live that way, and we should claim the extraordinary life because nobody else will do it for us. So let me read you a few examples from this book that is a challenge and show up in conversations all the time. So in one of our chapters, in chapter 4, we write about the 22 genius blocks. Yes, genius is a loaded topic. We found this very early on when we named our business Genius Coaching. One evening, Otto, that's me, went to a networking event. Of the 15 business cards I handed out, 5 were handed back as people said, "This isn't me." I wanted to ask, "How do you know?" But I didn't even have a chance. Most people either don't think they have a shred of genius in them, or if they do think so, They are too afraid of admitting it for fear of looking arrogant. So, if you have been ducking your genius, you're certainly not alone or original. In fact, here are our top 22 ways people escape their natural genius, presented in no particular order. Number 1. You are too busy. Who has the time for genius when there are so many uninteresting, unrewarding, yet seemingly important pursuits to capture our attention? No matter how unhappy you may be in your current career and living situation, the trap of busyness can be challenging to escape. Genius comes from the inside. The more you know your genius abilities, the more you'll find ways to apply them. You will also find opportunities to fulfill your everyday responsibilities in much more fun and rewarding ways. Let's pick another one from this 22 list. You did do well in school. Unless your genius is math, history, or gym, your straight A's were not an expression of your genius. The same is true of college, graduate school, and the career. You may have received great grades all the way along and have created a good career. That's fine. But what do your guts say? If the mantra, "there must be more than this," sounds in your guts every day and every hour, then you have yet to tap into your unique area of genius. I think you see where we go with this. And our book, of course, is full of these experiences, but also full of advice what to do about this. So let's look to the other side. What happens if you do not claim this biological birthright? This is one of the conversations typical for situations we hear on the phone almost every day. You can read this slide anyway as we go through it, but who pays attention to a boy who recognizes math patterns at age 5? And then he gets A's without trying hard. Perfect, easygoing student, no question. But all of a sudden, he complains about boredom. He complains about being frustrated and hopeless. His teachers call him lazy troublemaker. And all of a sudden, his mood goes up and down. And very sure, this is when the call for medication increases. He feels very lonely, misunderstood, dumbs himself down to be accepted and have some access at least to a clique in his class. And sure enough, at age 14, in the meantime, he does not know who he is anymore because he's too confused. So that's what happens if this early thing with recognizing math patterns is not recognized and not developed. Now, if you could be able to go back into this, then you could develop it. And that's exactly what we do with him. We make sure we connect exactly where the brilliance research stopped. What is all this math thing all about? And sure enough, already in our first coaching session, we had a very meaningful, reluctant first, but meaningful conversation about the background of math. What does math mean? Why is it at the foundation of science? He never asked this question, but all of a sudden he was curious and interested. And after this very first coaching session, Mom said, "What did you do with him? He's a totally different boy." I said, "Well, you were part of this coaching session. You saw it. We found a spot where he has a burning interest and a desire to learn more, and it was never recognized and answered to. That's how simple it is." So these are things, what happens. So on a deeper level, to understand the bigger picture means it is suppression leads to damage for body, mind, heart, and soul on every level. You cannot separate one from the other. It shows up as all the labels in my nose well. ADD, dyslexia, laziness, distractions, Asperger's, playing stupid, aggressive behavior, and all the acronym levels: OCD, ADD, ASD, ADHD. I mean, you name it, new symptoms come up. What is it? Defiance disorder. I forgot the label even because it's so fairly new. So, you see, I don't pay much attention to the labels. I want to know the background. And as alarming as they look like, they are nothing but warning signals of the body. Something is missing. Not something is wrong. Something is missing, which is a whole different aspect. If something would be wrong, we need to be fixed. I strongly disbelieve that. Something is missing in this child's and young adult's development. Let's add it to the picture so the symptoms go away. Advanced symptoms, the louder cries, the louder warning signals include addictions, all kinds of addictions or multiple addictions. Sugar, video games, drugs, legal and illegal drugs, allergies. Now, these labels could look really scary at times. In reality, they are still strong cries and warning signals from the body. And one thing is written in stone: the body never lies. You can make up thoughts, you can fake emotions, but you cannot not disrupt or misunderstand your heart, your lung, or your liver. So, interesting question that pops up right now. It's exactly almost identical with this slide. How did you know that? Thank you, Mike, for asking this question. That is, what is true for adults? I have the same thing going on in my profession. Guess what? That's exactly the point. Mike, our Mike, it's not you personally on the call, is one of these examples. Very quiet, introverted young man in his 20s, became a supervisor in a manufacturing company, and then he had a motorcycle accident. He almost lost his life. And after 6 months of recovery and physical therapy, he came back to work. And the first comment he heard was, "We almost didn't miss you." He was so offended by it. And that's why he came and see me as a coach, and I asked him, "So Mike, do you see this is the biggest compliment you can have? What does it tell you about yourself?" "I have no idea." So after progressing in our genius profile and finding out more about who he was, because he studied so much about philosophy, about leadership, about economy, about finance, he was very, very curious and very smart. But never he learned anything about himself. Now we figured out there's a huge hidden talent. We didn't have a voice yet. This talent is obviously leadership. He trained his team so well that even in a case where he was out for a couple of months, the team still knew what to do. This is advanced leadership. And they slowly embraced this fact because, surprisingly enough, once you figure it out, you resist it. Because most likely for your critical mind, it might be too good to be true. For him, it was the case. So we had to really coach him carefully to embrace this reality. "Mike, you're born as a natural leader. Tell me stories about your kindergarten, your grammar school time." And sure enough, the stories came to life. "Oh, I didn't remember that. I didn't remember this." He was a natural leader all along, and he never ever took credit for it. Now he can go back to work with the sure, certain insight: I am a leader, and I have what it takes to lead even bigger groups of people. So sometimes tragedy kicks in to make you wake up. And this time it took a motorcycle accident to bring Mike to his senses, literally, so he knows who he is. Or Carly is a colleague of mine, certified genius coach, and she one time evaluated Macy, her niece. Macy came to our office, and we have a big, huge white wall, which is a whiteboard. And I asked Macy, "Can you draw something?" I said, "Well, I can." "What?" I said, "Anything." So she drew these little flowers on the left side of this slide. And she said, "Well, those are flowers." And she was pretty sad and quiet about it. Then we did the whole evaluation process, and after 1 hour, she got spontaneously ran back to the wall, to our whiteboard, and drew the flowers on the right side. Do you see the difference? It's pretty obvious. The flowers on the left side are dead. The flowers of the right side are alive. Her mom was in shock when she saw that. I said, "Yes, dear mom, here's the opportunity. Bring this child back to life. She is dying on the inside because her needs, her uniqueness has not been nurtured." And this was the beginning for this child to be a happy child, and for the mother to have a peace of mind, and also no longer have to deal with the the aggressive outburst of her daughter. So every story could be continued, but I want to direct you in a different point. Also, behind boredom is frequently the labeling game. All these labels you see on this lady and in the background is something you can get easily. Social attachment disorder, social anxiety disorder, rebellious, oppositional defiant disorder. I mean, whatever disorder you can make up, they are out there. Just Google them for fun. You find a whole list. And in reality, they just hide a totally different person. So behind shy can be poet, somebody who is deep with language, has time for reflection, time to figure out words, the perfect word combination, all in her quiet mind before she comes out. Social anxiety disorder can be just a humanitarian. Bipolar just be an artist who can handle extreme emotions. Einstein for sure would have been diagnosed with ADD. He for sure would have most likely would have been put on medication. And we would have lost one of the biggest geniuses in human history. So that's what's in stake. Please peel off the labels and look what's behind. And that makes all the difference in the world. Let's talk about the enemies a little bit of this genius discussion. Yes, you need to know the enemies as well, because they can destroy brilliance in a heartbeat, especially if they are in place like a parasite over years and years and years. So the addiction, I mentioned this already as one thing that can destroy personalities, and we have vivid examples, thousands and millions of examples, how addictions ruin lives in years. Alcohol, whatever, pick it. I always want to add a second A, which I didn't do on this slide, but I give it to you as an extra bonus, which is aggression. This thing with childhood aggression is some of the most frequently misunderstood symptoms. Of course, bored children tend to have aggressive behavior. But just recently we saw a 7 years old, who was in the principal's office almost 3 days a week for aggressive behavior. And yes, it looked really scary. All of a sudden this boy was jumping up and attacking another child out of the blue, and nobody knew why. And then they came for an evaluation, and we sat down and said, so what's going on? Tell me a typical situation. We do some relaxing games first so the child has a chance to play and to open, and we have a very playful environment in our office anyway. And plus we have a therapy dog. I bring her to work almost every day, Candy, and she calms down children like nobody else can. Of course, children just fall in love with her, and that opens their heart as well. So we started to talk about this aggressive thing. So it turns out there's one pattern that happens instantly. If somebody is aggressive, one child is aggressive to a different one, or somebody bullies another child, or somebody is mean, or somebody is cynical, our little boy, David, just jumps up and hits the child in the face because he has a strong dislike for social injustice. Once we figured that out, we had a meeting with the teacher and the principal and the parent. We presented the case. And sure enough, the teacher and the counselor confirmed, yes, it's true. All these situations where he acts up, something like this has happened. Sometimes it's only one sentence, only one remark that nobody even hears. But sure enough, David hears it because he's super sensitive to social injustice. So now the plan is to make him a specialist for bullying and talk to other children, because David likes to talk. He is a big talker, a big mouth, and he doesn't hold back his emotion either. So natural talent for speaking. So we want to develop him as a specialist for bullying in elementary school. And parent and teacher and principal are excited. So that's what happens when you find the genius enemy. You discover it and just flip the coin. That's why I did this coin on this slide. We mentioned the boredom already as topic of this whole interactive lecture today. And yes, boredom, we highlighted so much, I don't want to go any further because we learned so much already. The C stands for confusion. A brain that doesn't know what to do and where to go is confused naturally. It's a natural brain state when you don't know what you do. So don't be surprised if you hear, actually, honestly, I'm confused. I don't understand why. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's just too much random activity going on in the brain. And unless you figure out what's unique about this child, confusion will persist. So yes, it's a genius enemy, but also something to flip that coin. Look on the other side. What is really missing? Direction, clarity, and discovering of uniqueness. Distraction, the D, along the same lines. Okay, you can be distracted with video games forever just to kill time, literally, because you don't want to be alive in this time. You don't want to use this time for some better purpose, because as a child you don't know what that better purpose actually is. Once you find out, then you can do something about it. Or last but not for sure not least, passivity. And boredom and passivity are very, very close friends, of course. These children who are couch potatoes, who are quiet and just doesn't seem to be interested in anything. And passivity, again, can be scary, can look like depression. It has nothing to do with depression. Depression is a clinical term. Passivity is a habit of the brain that can be interrupted by flipping that coin. What's on the other side? It's always, always, always suppressed intelligence. And we are here to help you to figure out what is it. And the $1,000,000 question is, what side of the coin do you want to focus on? Do you want to fix the genius enemies that are all unfixable? Or are you courageous enough to take that coin and flip it over and see what's on the other side? And I invite you strongly to do that. First of all, it's much more rewarding. You have more fun in life with your child. You have more meaningful interactions. You build a person instead of controlling a person. So the whole mindset, the whole personality, the whole emotional set changes by you looking on the area of strength and not trying to fix weaknesses. I know it's easier said than done, because the tendency to fix weaknesses most likely is strong in you, because we all grew up that way. Fix your weaknesses so you fit into a mediocre life. We flip that coin, develop your strength, so you can grow from ordinary to extraordinary in your life. So, the simple research result we have over and over after 28 years now is all these symptoms disappear when unique talents are developed. That's the lasting answer. Don't get me wrong, medication might be necessary as a temporary solution. Absolutely necessary, but keep in mind it's always, always temporary, never permanent. At Genius Coaching, we go for the permanent solution, to replace all the scary symptoms with the real behavior, because the body no longer needs to send alarm signals. That's the basic assumption and the basic premise of Genius Coaching. So, yes, simple solution. Identify unique strength as early as possible, and then number 2, put them to action. Knowledge is easily available. Isn't that wonderful? You don't need to know anything anymore. You just Google it. So knowledge is no longer the issue. But what kind of action to select the right knowledge, to select meaningful knowledge, preferably from people you trust, and then implement based on their expertise, having the opportunity to communicate with other parents who have been in this situation and made it through this situation. This is what we suggest. You are not alone in this, listening to this call. You are part of an international community who works on the same issue. And every dollar you invest and every research you do to solve this problem for yourself and your children pays off like nothing else, because the answer is a happy, fulfilled life. And that, in my personal opinion, is simply priceless. So here's what we do. Our background is a genius profile. We took it to the next level. My personal challenge was I want to make this measurable. I want to make this printable, so you can have it up on the wall as a poster that is at least as important as your mirror. You see every day what you are good at. We start with the behavioral style assessment disc on the upper right corner, which means behavior is body language. We figure out if you're extrovert and introvert. How do you interact with other people on the behavior level? How do children and parents' behavior style differ? Those are important insights that impact communication in your family immediately. Then we focus on strengths and talents. We're using the Strength Finder from the Gallup Institute, or the version for children called Strength Explorer for children between 9 and 14. Then we focus on the needs program. What are your needs, your motivators? What drives you even through challenging times? For example, if you have a need for honesty, you cannot stand dishonest people. You might feel physically uncomfortable about people who lie to you. So we need to know what that is, because needs are different for different people. Similar situation, Genius Values Program. What are true important values for you? What drives you in life to move forward? What are you striving for? So value could be, for example, learning is a value. So when there is a strong desire to learn, give me a lot of meaningful things to learn, areas where I'm interested in. Then we do a learning style assessment. Normal learning style assessments online evaluate 3 styles: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. We evaluate 6 learning styles to make sure we understand also how your brain processes information and find the easiest way for your brain to do that. And that, by the way, of course, is true for adults and for children. And then we mentioned, as I mentioned already briefly, we test and evaluate 12 intelligences. So way beyond IQ, 12 qualities of human intelligence as we know it today. And then at the end, we come up with 3 different interviews to make this whole Genius profile customized and individual, unique, extraordinary accomplishments. We interview you and your parents. What did you do in life that already shows your brilliance? What specifically is it? Did it show up in kindergarten, repeating itself again at age 10 or 12? And then we see, oh, this is something what we call a genius moment. This is where your brilliance showed up. You may or may not have paid attention, but now it's time to pay attention. Then we talk about life insights, another interview. What are those events in your life that shaped you into who you are today? Maybe you had to move to a different city and you hated to lose all your friends. There was emotional maturity necessary to own this change and really make peace with it and have the capability to explore and expand and create new friends. These moments are in our life intertwined. We need to understand what they really mean. And the third interview is about growth environment. What do you need to grow? Some people need a lot of communication. Some people need a lot of quiet time and study time and online research time and reading time. We are not the same. And unless we know what makes you tick, you will always be on the search. Based on this comprehensive evaluation, that's a complete program, we can create a genius profile as a blueprint for life, career, and business. And in my personal opinion, there's no dollar value you could assign to having a clear blueprint to build your life. We would never have the idea to build a house without a blueprint. However, until now, we have been building our lives and careers on the hit and miss principle or trial and terror principle. Try if it works for you. If not, do something else. It's emotionally draining, financially very expensive. Now with the Genius Profile, there's an end to that. We have a plan like we have for a house and for a building. So once you are done with the insights, then of course, what needs to happen? How can I take action? And that's where the coaching comes in. Like I said in the beginning, in my personal experience, coaching bridges the gap between the insights from the Genius Profile and the results. So how can you do that? By breaking old habits, outdated habits. They need to be updated. You cannot run your company in Windows 97 any longer. You need to upgrade. Same thing is true on the behavior side. You might have adjusted to a limited insight in your profile, what you're good at. But guess what? The Genius Profile gives you a bigger picture. Now it's time to adjust your daily life, your behavior, your habits to this bigger picture. And chances are there are blocks you put up to protect yourself. And these blocks need to be removed from brain and nervous system. This is exactly what Genius coaching does, the coaching part does. So for example, a mental block. One thing that frequently happens in coaching conversations is to remove blocks between left and right side of the brain. So in emergency situations, there's a true deep meaning for this capability of the human brain to shut down. So for example, in ancient history during Stone Age, you faced a lion ready to attack you. You need to shut down your thinking immediately. You need to run for your life. So thinking would cost you your life eventually. For these emergency situations, this shutdown in the brain was absolutely necessary for survival. The sad part, the tricky part is the picture of a lion or the movie about a lion does the same thing to our brain. It shuts down, it goes into survival mode. For an open mind, guess what? You need to have an open brain. So in coaching, you will learn how to do that. And one thing I want to give away to you how to do this is crosswalk. So like this mother does with her baby on this slide. Okay? By crossing the walk, by crossing left arm and right leg simultaneously, you cross the midline of the body. Left leg is connected to the right side of the brain in terms of movement. Right arm is connected to the left side of the brain. By moving them at the same time, you activate this connection between the two halves of the brain. This little girl on the right side of the slide shows you how to do it in a more advanced way, touching your opposite leg with your elbow. But it only works if you know what you're doing to your brain. So staying connected is a very important thing for changing habits and update habits. We could go deeper into that, but just gives you an idea why it is rewarding and helpful to be a parent coach. And that's what I want to mention to you a little bit later. One step we do in our practice is we do an evaluation session before we start coaching. We interview and we encourage you to do the same thing as a parent. Look for these early signs of brightness. Ask your husband, your spouse, what did you observe? Write them down, build a real profile. When did she have these outrageous insights for the first time in her life? Ask for sensitivities, allergies, ear infections are sense of early indicators of sensitivity. Not because there are some warning signals, it's just good to know this child is super sensitive. Pay attention to feed these senses with meaningful information. Look for intensity. All these 5 areas we talked about as early indicators of genius. Just do a search. And then we do what we call a Lego test, something we developed here in-house. And we do a physical intelligence test for the brain that figures out if this happens on the call. If you are on this call and see that this would be a great fit for you, by all means take us up on that. We would offer you a special for participating in this call, and if you send us your information and send us the link to this call, we would honor that and give you a 20% discount. And one of my assistants, either Melanie or Mariana, will handle this processing and to get you on our list and get an evaluation. Sometimes this evaluation alone will do the trick, will be enough clarity already to do the next step with your child. However, there is your genius quote. Like I mentioned already before, there's a true genius in everyone. If you're ready to take it serious, I would encourage you to even go a step further. I still see not a lot of questions coming in. One of them is, oh, here it is. Thank you. Now you open the floodgates. Thank you for being so responsive to this slide. Oh, now they're pouring in. Thank you so much. Let me pick one of them. Number 5. What can I do beyond the evaluation? I am out of state. I'm in Alabama. Great question. Thank you. What we encourage you to do is to have a closer look in becoming a parent coach, taking matters in your own hands. We have been doing this for quite some time, and we offer the parent coach as a home study program, which means we recorded a series of teleclasses that are highly interactive and have a lot of parent examples, and they will give you enough information to try it out. It comes with a little handout, with a little booklet, with practical exercises, and you can learn how to learn coaching tools immediately, which means you can have with your child a coaching conversation. for simply asking those questions instead of giving advice. One cardinal sin in coaching, professional coaching, and parent coaching is giving advice. Now you ask yourself, how many times do I just give my child advice? Instead of asking questions, what do you mean with your question? What do you mean with your curiosity? What does honesty mean to you? So we answer these deeper needs. I highly encourage you having a closer look about into our program, The Parent Coach. Thank you so much for being on this call today. I'm really overwhelmed, to be honest with you, with all the questions coming in. And thank you so much for participating. And now at the end, there are more questions that I can answer because we have a time limit. But what I want to do for you is to compile them, to collect them. And very soon you will see on our website a list of frequently asked questions to this topic. Because I see a few of them that are really unique and valuable, and I want to make sure you get an answer for these questions. So please bear with us and come back to our website frequently to revisit this frequently asked questions section, so make sure we cover your specific needs. If you are in town in the area of Phoenix or Scottsdale, Arizona, or close to us, feel free to schedule a evaluation session with us. And if you do so within the next 48 hours, we are ready to honor the 20% discount I mentioned on the previous slide. The second link on this slide will lead you to get more information about the Parent Coach program. You will learn on 6 CDs and 6 different modules an in-depth exposure to professional coaching, how you can adjust and adapt these new tools immediately for your family environment to get new results and create new respect for each other and a new communication inside your family. So find out more about that and go to our website and follow this link below. Thank you again for joining us today, and stay tuned and stay in touch with us, and the best of luck with your unfolding genius in your family.